Oh no.
Looks like this has split and come apart, which is really unusual.
Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to Mega Spec. Now you may remember we bought this car last week for £990. And yes, while we were excited by all the cool gadgets, we knew that the glorious S500 needed some work. So this week we're at independent Mercedes specialist Stevensons to get the lowdown on Mega Spec's problems. I mean, how bad can it be? If I were to come to you as a punter and say, hey Steve, got a little bit of rust, can you repair it? What would you say to me?
No, with something like on the doors, it's not worth usually trying to repair them when they are that corroded. The rear quarters usually quite sound and can repair.
Okay, so a pretty damning report on the exterior. Let's now check out the interior.
On the whole, everything looks intact. None of the switch gears being pushed through. Seat feels comfy. It doesn't feel like it's done a million miles. No rust in here. Nice option to have the rear blind.
Yeah.
It works instantly.
Headrest, was that the headrest? Yes. Kapow! Kapow!
This car has a pneumatic air suspension system, so you can raise the car up, alter the damping, and even the coin holders, everything.
Coin holders, this is something we didn't look at last time.
What's one of those?
Oh my God, that is one of the greatest things I've ever seen.
How apt is the track though?
Simply the best. Tina Turner. Bow. So that light there, it flickers.
Sometimes with these, they get a little bit of moisture in the headlights. Sometimes it's when people change a side light bulb and they leave the cap off or leave the cap loose. Get a bit of water in there, water goes to the bottom of the control unit and then damages it. Nice to have the option to move the front left seat forward. Hardly feel like they've been sat in, really.
Yeah. There's one thing that we haven't discussed, Steve, and that is the fridge.
Even two settings on are off and high and low.
Do you drink Stella?
Oh, and it's cold enough, so definitely.
The fridge is an optional extra, and you told me earlier that you can actually take it out.
There were two options of what you could have with this. The downside of it was that you had a reduced size fuel tank. So you either had the fridge or you could have a ski bag, or you could take the fridge out and put your ski bag in should you want to carry a set of skis or two.
And the good news just keeps on coming.
When we took the fridge out, we realised that the whole toolkit was still in the back of the car. So just lovely to see that everything that you'd want and more was there.
Yeah, we've even got a whole set of fuses, which is mental.
And the fuse chart, which is just as, if not more important, that should you get a blown fuse, you know where it is to change it.
Buttery.
First thing that comes to my ear is that the exhaust sounds a little bit rattling. Possibly catalytic converter on the right hand side. Engine mounts feel a little bit harsh to me. They deteriorate after a little while, the engines sink, and a slight flutter through the engine. Yeah, an underlying misfire there very slightly. First thing I like to do is pull it apart. Air ducts come off very easily, airbox comes off in just a pull, and then we can expose the heart of the beast. Usual little oil weeps from around the cam cover seals and gaskets. This car was one of the first to be fitted with this electric type of secondary air injection. With that came cylinder shut-off.
So would that then go from 8 to 6 or 8 to 4?
I would believe it will go 8 to 4. Nice temporary cap here for washer bottle, heated washer bottle on them.
Heated washer bottle.
As well as heated washer jets from here.
Bloody hell.
The fan felt a little bit loose and there's a broken bolt in the fan cowling there. Quite mucky inside. To me, this shows signs that it hasn't had as regular oil changes as I would like to see. See how dirty the air filters are. They should all be nice and clean and bright yellow. Same the other side. Something that should have been done years ago, these water drains, they block up, and that one's actually full of dirt. Yeah, I think I'd like to have a look underneath it now.
All right, let's do that. Yeah. Let's pick up Mega Spec. Now a very quick note to tell you about an amazing free-to-enter VIP experience for car enthusiasts you could win thanks to our sponsors Michelin. Open to US residents only, you and a friend could win flights to Los Angeles, a 2-night stay in a 4-star hotel, a tour of the Peterson Museum, an exclusive tour of Singer vehicle design, and dinner at a Michelin-starred restaurant. Click the link in the description below, fill in your details, and be sure to check the box to receive marketing communications from Michelin so you don't miss cool opportunities like this in the future. I have a habit of buying rusty cars, but this one I think's a good one, except for the body.
the exhaust has been changed because the brackets have rotted off. This shock absorber looks like this has been changed recently, or certainly in the last few years. It looks a lot cleaner than the rusty one this side.
And I imagine changing one of those out would have cost an arm and a leg.
Probably, I'd guess them at about £1,000 a corner.
Christ.
Can see a little bit of oil coming from the rear differential. To see a little bit of sweating from the back plate isn't too unusual, but I'd say this one's leaking from the pinion seal, and that is more to the point that it's spraying over the exhaust.
When all that oil drains, what happens then?
The diff would overheat and wear out and seize.
And lock?
Potentially, yeah.
So we'd have a locked diff?
You would, not in a good way.
Oh.
Still got the aluminium subframe. Some of these did have cracking issues on some of the welding points. Looks to me like somebody's been playing with the catalytic converter. Perhaps somebody's put a temporary or a replacement cat within it.
Or just taking it out?
Or just taking it out, they might have done, looking at the way that it's been cut open, peeled. That bracket, I think, is some of the noise. And this one's broken here.
So this is a noise that you spotted that no one else in the world ever heard, but only you did, because you're the Mercedes whisperer.
I can put my finger through the chassis there.
Oh, that's not a good thing to be able to finger that.
Rear suspension bushes, and the arm, it's not sitting perfectly true. It's over one side to the point that it might even start rubbing through on the subframe here.
Yeah.
Corroded anti-roll bar, not a big issue, but just shows that it's flexing. And this is certainly the newer shock absorber. Looks in very good condition.
Oh no. Oh no. Oh no.
Certainly rusty seal leading to cross member or part of the subframe. And we can see the subframe mounts have split. The oil within them has come out. So this is what concerned me the most, is these bits.
That's holding the car up, isn't it?
There is another part within it, so it is layered. I did make sure it was good before we got underneath it, for all of our sake. That's how I know that we can still stand under it safely, because there's still all that good metal above it and all the way around it. It's not very nice, but as that bit could be repaired, certainly for a total job of probably £300 or so. Right, let's have a look at the front end. Shock absorber. Looks like this has split and come apart, which is really unusual. If you were to compare where this gator is sitting on the shock absorber compared to the near side one, we can see how much higher it is and where it's supposed to be sitting. That is this arm they call spring link. It's usually a relatively cheap item to replace. The problem that you have is that the grub screws are recessed into the shock absorber and they have a habit of seizing in. If you can't undo those grub screws, you can add another £1,200 to the job. You hear that? Yeah, just wheel bearing. Tapered wheel bearings on the front, easily adjustable. A little bit of an oil leak on this side, certainly not coming down from the top. Could be perhaps a lower sump pan gasket. This wheel caught my eye. Not often you see weights on weights on weights. The tyre itself is wearing a little bit unevenly. The way the suspension is, I'm not surprised.
And now for some diagnostics.
What's drawn my eye is the capital F in the engine control unit. EGR fault. That could be down to something as simple as a split vacuum pipe. So cylinder 4 straight away highlighted. Gut feeling, it would probably be something like an ignition coil or spark plug leads.
Quite a happy result.
Yeah, definitely, compared to the rest of the car and underneath.
What are the things that would need to be repaired in your eyes immediately?
Front suspension, that shock absorber being like that, the ball joint and the spring link on this side particularly. Chassis work on the offside rear seal. Diff seals.
Oh yeah, I forgot about
that. The oil within that.
Right, so Steve, you filled out quite a list, and I think you've got a few more things to fill
Yeah,
out.
I'm just going to add a couple of bits onto the list for where we are, for what we've seen. Yeah, give me 5-10 minutes or so, and we'll get back to you with some prices of what it costs to put it right again.
How much do you reckon, Alex?
I mean, there's a lot of stuff, isn't there?
A lot of stuff.
2.5 grand. Jack, number?
I think you're being optimistic.
I know I'm being very optimistic,
I'm
aren't I?
going to say 3,200.
If it's any more than a my E36 M3, then
Total cost for all of these repairs, 3.500 Pfund. Ach du Scheiße.
let's just leave it here and walk home. Right, so Steve, you're back.
I'm back. It's taken me a few minutes.
Steve, what's the final figure?
8,150.
8,150? How?
We have things like the near side rear window regulator.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
I've added on and put on the proper mirror glass and the cover that's broken on the driver's side. The headlamp that's not working.
How much is that?
I've put it down for around £1,000 for that headlight.
They're that expensive.
Those xenon headlights are that expensive.
£1,000. I bought a car for that, for a headlight.
The oil leak from the cam covers. The worst case situation if we had to do something with the broken bolt on the fan. If that were to shear when it comes out, it could damage the plastic frame of the radiator.
Yeah.
So this is a worst case scenario should it need it. Replacing the diff seals.
Yeah.
I think if the diff were to come out, you wouldn't just replace the 3 that are leaking, you would do all of them.
Yeah.
And fresh oil, of course. A lot of labour involved in that, so that's around £500. The offside rear suspension arm that we showed, the biggest hit I think is probably the front suspension if it were to need the shock absorbers and the spring-linked arms. I've put that down as £2,000. The rusty seal,
Yeah.
probably only around £300 for that repair.
Yeah, that's surprisingly good actually.
And if it did need to put genuine exhaust and the catalytic converters back on from where they've been cut open, that's £1,750. If we were to include things like the rear lights, where they're letting in a little bit of water and damage and cracked, £300 for the pair, and some other simple things like the air filters, just when we saw how dirty they are.
Yeah, so that 8,150 price doesn't even include the rust.
Now you would be looking at probably another guesstimate, perhaps £2,000 or £3,000 to put that back properly.
So if we wanted this car to be in top spec, happy spec, 10 grand.
Probably closer to 11.
11 grand. Bloody hell. Okay, well, that is quite an extensive list.
And we don't like to let anybody go away with nothing, so we thought we'd bag up your rust that we've cut out from underneath it, scraped away. So I'll take that, I'll leave you that, and say thank you very much.
What a day.
So then, to recap, the price to put Mega Spec right properly would be around £11,000. That's because parts for a car as over-engineered as this are as expensive as the spec is long. Overall though, the S500 still has a lot to offer. However,
I think the phrase that you would probably use is uneconomical to repair.
That would be the phrase.
Anyway, I want to say massive thank you to Steve from Stevensons Mercedes Repair. I hope you've enjoyed this very enlightening episode. We're going to see what we do with Mega Spec because now I'm a little bit up in air, so maybe leave some comments. If you want to see more videos, then click on this link and don't forget to subscribe to Car Throttle over here. I'm going to go grab a biscuit, have a tea and have a little cry. Goodbye.